When you look at Season 1 and 8 of Gumball side by side, you can see that there are a lot of differences, and some of them you'd never even recognize. So today, we're tracking down the very first appearance of every single character in the show, starting off with the main man himself, Gumball. The first time we see Gumball is actually not in the Amazing World of Gumball, but in the pilot episode, which was released 3 years earlier. In the pilot, we see the first version of Gumball, who tries to escape from school. However, he's still only a child, so this plan completely fails. There's a lot of differences between Gumball in this short compared to the actual show, the main one being his design. The best way to describe it is that he looks like if you told someone to draw a character with all the features of Gumball without showing them a picture of Gumball. He's still a blue cat with a big head and sweater, but he looks distinctly different from the Gumball in the show, with a square-like head and a yellow zip-up sweater. His voice is also a lot more childlike, being voiced by Nikki Jones, who voiced Chowder. But it's not just the presentation of the character that's different. His character is quite different in doing very complex mathematics. Gumball in the pilot does math at the beginning like an absolute champ. Gumball in the show, math who? But Gumball isn't the only character to debut in the pilot, because we also see the first Darwin appearance. And my god is he different. We don't see him talk much in the episode, mostly just going along with Gumball's plan to escape school. But this still does set up the dynamic of him. Well, just sort of following whatever dumb thing Gumball says to do that stays for the whole show. One character trait that was interesting and was completely dropped was his amnesia. In the short, Darwin had a very short memory.
Ready! Ready for what?
And you've probably all heard the saying of goldfishes having very short memories. Well, as this commenter pointed out, I love how Darwin said ready for what? Because he was meant to suffer from poor memory just like an actual goldfish. But by far, the biggest change to Darwin was his design being completely 3D in the pilot, and changing to 2D in the actual show. This actually aligns with Ben Boclet's original vision for the show, being about different rejected cartoon characters, so each character would have a distinctly different design and animation style. But in all honesty, I think the designs are a massive improvement. Speaking of the actual show, that finally moves us to the first episode of The Amazing World of Gumball, the DVD, where in this episode, we see Nicole in her first appearance, badgering Gumball about not returning the DVD that he rented from the laser video rental store.
You kids!
The kids you decided to have.
Huh?
What DVD do they have to return? Well, it's none other than alligators on a train, which Darwin seems to be using as a pizza cutter for some reason. Gumball takes the DVD and uses the wrong end of the scrub and absolutely destroys the disc. Gumball and Darwin then try to replace the disc with cardboard, which the store owner doesn't buy, and sends them an angry red mail. They then try begging on the street, which almost works, but the hobo in his debut appearance steals the money from Gumball and uses the money to buy a lottery ticket, which he won, and proceeded to give none of it to the boys.
That's great! So, can we have our $4 back?
Oh, sorry, guys. I don't have any change.
The duo then go to try to find jobs. They find a spot at a makeup testing joint, which almost works, but Gumball is allergic to the products. But before we continue, I'm gonna tell you about this really cool app I found where you can literally message Gumball and the rest of the Watterson family, thanks to today's sponsor, Polybuzz. Polybuzz lets you chat with AI versions of characters from all your favorite shows. Gumball, can you name every character that you've met?
Sure, Banana Joe, Tina, the guy who's a potato, and then roughly 400 people I've been referring to as Shapes.
Hold on, Shapes?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. There's a lot of strange people at my school.
Yeah, that checks out. You can have full conversations with these characters, joke with them, roast them, and ask them stupid questions. The possibilities are literally endless. And on top of all that, you can even create your own characters inside the app. So you already know I'm adding in my boy Banana Bob, and the intellect intellectual conversations that we're about to be having is on a different level. You can't even comprehend it. If you guys want to try it for yourself, just click the link in the description or the pinned comment. It's free to download, and if you use my promo code Gumball3, it unlocks premium features in the app with a free trial. It's literally free. There is no reason not to try this. Huge thanks to Polybuzz for sponsoring today's video, but now let's get back to the first appearance of every Gumball character. Finally, Gumball is about to just pirate the movie onto a new disc, but Darwin comes up with an even better idea. They all head off to Laser Video, but Nicole, sensing there is trouble, chases the boys through the neighborhood. She breaks through fences, rides a dog, and almost dies multiple times. The boys finally make it to the video store and meet the owner, Larry, in his debut appearance.
The Wattersons. It's about time you showed up. I assume you have my money.
They show him the DVD, and we get to see Darwin's amazing idea in 4K. Literally, because his idea was to remake the entire film in their backyard in 5 minutes. Surprisingly, this plan completely fails, and Nicole has to pay the fee to replace the DVD. Up next, we have the responsible, and this episode starts off with our first appearance of Richard, failing to put on his belt. What an introduction. He really doesn't want to go to the parents' evening, which Nicole is forcing him to attend. However, the kids are still at home, so Richard hired a babysitter, who turns out to be a total weirdo. Nicole is completely out of ideas, until Gumball and Darwin present an alternative. They can run the house while Nicole and Richard are away. Reluctantly, she agrees on the condition that they are responsible and take care of their little sister Anais in her debut appearance. You may think it's strange how we get to see all the Watterson family in episode 2, but in episode 1, we only see the boys and Nicole. This is because in many regions, even the US, this is the first episode, and the DVD is the second. However, officially the DVD is considered the first episode of the show. But back to the video, Gumball and Darwin try to take care of Anais. Keyword being trying, because they are absolutely terrible at it. They destroy the TV, light themselves on fire, walk her outside on a leash, chew her food up like a bird, and worst of all, try to make her wear a diaper. But again, emphasis on the word try, because Anais is able to trick them and trap the duo outside on the roof. However, Anais is completely unaware that the entire house is flooding from the bathtub, so Gumball and Darwin try to warn her, but by the time she realizes, it's too late. Richard and Nicole are really worried about how the meeting is going with their teacher. They have their worries completely validated as Banana Bob and Barbara leave the room crying because of Miss Simeon in all of their debut appearances. And it doesn't seem like it's gonna be much better for the Wattersons.
You get an F- in Pentagon! Next! Oh, the Wattersons.
Funnily enough, this means that we get to see Banana Joe's parents debut before Banana Joe, if you watch the show in order. So the boys are able to get into the house and save Anais just as Nicole and Richard get back home. They see the house completely flooded and unleash their wrath on the kids, who in turn blame them for leaving the kids alone at home. Nicole then blames Richard, who blames the internet. Now, it would seem pretty weird to include this on the list, because the internet isn't a character, but it's an object. But later in the show, we'll see that the internet is a sentient and prominent character in the show. So since this is the first mention of the internet, I guess we can say that this is its debut appearance.
None of this would have happened if it wasn't for you!
Who are you blaming here?
The internet?
But next up, we have to move on to the episode The Third to see more characters. And in this episode, Gumball and Darwin are told by the universe that they need a third friend in the form of 3 ants stealing their cookies. I'm serious. So they go out friend hunting, which goes about as well as you'd expect, with no one really fitting the bill, because everybody is extremely strange. This is until they come across Tobias in his debut appearance. He's colorful, rich, and strong, making him the perfect perfect person that they're looking for. He offers to be their third friend in exchange for $20. They make Tobias out to be a lot cooler than he is now, who is sort of just a loser. Now, Tobias starts hanging out with them a lot more, but it seems like Darwin takes a far stronger liking to Tobias than Gumball, and starts hanging out with him more than Gumball. Tobias offers them to come play a Z station at his house, to which Darwin accepts, but Gumball says no. Instead, he wants to play Dodger Dare with Alan, who he calls Adam.
I'm having a sleepover with my new best friend, Alex. Alan.
Back at home, Gumball gets really frustrated with Alan because he has no hands, so he can't play Dodger Dare. Alan asks him what's wrong, and Gumball tells him all the problems he's having with Darwin. Alan tells him to go to Darwin and tell him how he feels before he gets completely replaced by Tobias. Gumball agrees and thanks Alan, or at least tries to.
I'll never forget you, Adam! Andrew!
Even in his debut appearance, Alan is full of positive vibes, and Gumball still treats him like a jerk. Gumball races all the way to Tobias's house, literally catching on fire and flying like a human torch. But eventually, he reaches the house. Luckily, Darwin had a change of heart, and they get back together. Now, those big-brained in the audience probably know that we've already seen Alan and Tobias, both in the pilot, which is true, but we're gonna be focusing on their speaking debuts. But don't worry, we'll mention if the character has been seen as a background character. Now that we got all of that out of the way, let's move on to the episode The Debt. In this episode, Gumball is waiting for the Elmore talent show to see his neighbor perform. Who is this neighbor? Well, it's none other than Mr. Robinson, the grumpy man who Gumball would literally give his life away for because, we see him in his car with his wife, Mrs. Robinson, also in her debut, arguing about something.
Going to see the real Gaylord Robinson. Why can't you ever be happy for me?
This has stayed a part of their character all the way up to this day. As Mr. Robinson backs into his parking spot, Gumball freaks out, thinking he's gonna get crushed despite them moving at a snail's pace. Eventually, Mr. Robinson stops before hitting Gumball, and this causes him to jump onto the windshield and thank Mr. Robinson for saving his life. Mr. Robinson has no idea why Gumball is acting this way, and pops the hood, causing him to fly into space. Gumball then sees the planet and prays to the universe that he can make it up to Mr. Robinson. We then see that the planets are all alive with faces. And since we see these planets come back multiple times in the show, this is technically their debut.
Repay this debt.
What did he say?
I don't know. Whose turn is it anyway?
Yeah, mine.
Gumball then does pretty much all he can to try to quote-unquote save Mr. Robinson's life. But in reality, it's just him pretty much killing the guy. Firstly, he moves a wet floor sign, causing him to fall over. Then he does the Heimlich maneuver on the guy, even though he's not choking, which causes him to spit out his heart. He gets electrocuted by Gumball in the suntan bed, and finally, he launched a bowling ball at him. Mr. Robinson tells him to leave him alone because he has the Elmore talent show coming up, and he needs it to go well. Gumball is feeling down, so Anais and Darwin pretend to be assassins, and Gumball needs to save him. Before the talent show starts, we see Rocky in his first speaking appearance, since he technically did appear in the pilot, but here's his proper debut.
Please welcome to the stage our second and final act, Mr. Gaylord Robinson! Good luck, Dad!
Mr. Robinson then does his thing, and the crowd goes wild, with Gumball finding out about the assassination attempt and saving Mr. Robinson's life. It would be interesting if they reintroduced Mr. Robinson singing back into the show, because after this, he never sings again. But next, let's look at the episode The End, and in this one, we see a lot more characters. It starts with Gumball and Darwin finding multiple signs that the end of the world is coming. One of the signs that they see is that when they flick through the channels, it sounds like a warning to Gumball that the end is happening. Gary Hedges, in his speaking debut, screams that the end is near next to the school bus, but he really means that the sale is about to end.
The end is near! 4-hour discount sale, so hurry up!
Then they see a flock of crows flying away from the playground, which freaks them out, but is actually because they're flocking to Anton in order to eat him. This is also the speaking debut of Anton, and it's kind of crazy that him literally dying here eventually became his entire character, with an entire episode being dedicated to Anton dying. They then do a bunch of things that they want to do before they die, like buying a pony, starting the biggest party ever, and for Gumball, marrying marrying Penny with a bagel ring. This is also Penny's speaking debut, and even though in the episode she tells Gumball she's interested in him, it takes until season 3 or 4 for them to start dating. It's then revealed that the end of the world wasn't actually happening, and it was just the eclipse.
Dude, you just got mooned! What is wrong with that guy?
But even though they didn't die, they probably should have gone blind from staring directly at the eclipse. But now we have the quest. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin take Anais's Daisy the donkey toy onto the bus, which causes the other kids to take it and throw it around the bus. Anais gets Gumball to help her get it back. They first ask Leslie who picked it up from off the street, which is her second speaking role after her debut in the third, and he tells them to just ask Juke, as he gave it to him.
Hey, dude, you gotta give it back. My sister is blowing a fuse.
Sorry, guys. I gave it to Juke.
This is also the first time we see Juke, and he tells, or more accurately signals, that Daisy the donkey is on the bench. When they go to get it, Hector, in his first speaking appearance, sits on it and gets it stuck on his butt.
Excuse me, sir. You appear to have a little something stuck to your right buttock.
And it lands in the hands of Tina in her debut. Now, we've seen Tina and Hector before in the pilot, but this is their first speaking role. Tina refuses to give the toy back, so Gumball and Darwin try replacing Daisy with a knockoff from Temu. Anais does not buy it and forces Gumball and Darwin to go to Tina's house, which is a literal dump, to get it back. They see her sleeping in the bed she made out of trash, and she's holding Daisy. Gumball and Darwin creep up and take it, but before they can make their escape, the cord gets pulled, and the noise wakes Tina up. She chases after the boys and Anais across the junkyard. This chase lasts for a little while, and was actually made into a game on the Cartoon Network website. They were able to stop her by dropping a crane straight onto her neck, but just as they were about to leave, Mr. Rex, Tina's father, makes his debut.
My dad eats trespassers.
Next, we have the spoon. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin need to go to the gas station in order to buy a gift, because Richard forgot to buy a gift for Nicole's birthday. Even though Richard could go off and get one himself, he decides to make Gumball and Darwin go out in the middle of the night unattended to the gas station. Just after Gumball and Darwin entered the store, Sal Left Thumb, in his debut, robs Larry armed with a spoon for some reason.
Oh my gosh, he's got a spoon! He's got a spoon!
Now, we've seen Cell before, not as a background character, but in the poster that's literally posted on the wall of the gas station that he robs. Gumball and Darwin then see Sal stealing from the register, and then see the wanted poster, but are immediately fooled when Sal says he's a charity worker collecting donations. Gumball and Darwin then go and search for items to give to charity. Just as they return with the stuff, Donut Cop comes in with his first speaking role, and Sal tells the boys to pose as employees and lead him out of the store. They are able to do this by making him chase after a donut, because I guess he's a cannibal.
He's gone, Mr. Charity Man.
Sal then ties Larry up and asks for where the safe is, which he refuses to divulge. But then the family came to take the boys, and so they got tied up too. Gumball and Darwin finally realize that Sal is a criminal and run away with all the money. Sal chases after them in a massive chase scene, which goes from running to a scooter to a propane tank rocket, eventually resulting in Nicole coming to save the day, until she's wrongly put in jail. But next, we have the pressure. In this episode, we have Molly in her speaking debut, since we've seen her as a background character in the third, and many episodes since. Molly has a treehouse, which she's invited all the girls over. They talk about their boyfriends, which they don't have. So Masami, in her debut, tells all of them that they need a boyfriend to bring to the treehouse, and kiss them next week to actually prove they have one. It's interesting because we've seen Masami as a background character in the pilot, where she did have a boyfriend, which was Alan. This is quite fascinating because Alan's girlfriend in the show is Carmen, as seen in the episode The Storm, and ironically, in that episode, Masami is jealous of Carmen having Alan as her boyfriend. In this episode, however, Masami doesn't have a boyfriend and needs to get one to the treehouse as soon as possible. She sees Darwin outside with his friends and says that he's her boyfriend.
It's Darwin. Darwin? Yeah, he's
was great.
She confronts Darwin and asks him to go with her to the treehouse, which makes him extremely uncomfortable. But when she starts to cry, he relents and goes with her. Penny asks Gumball to come with her to the treehouse, but Gumball's a lot more comfortable with the idea than Darwin. Just before they go to get confronted by Tobias and Banana Joe in his debut appearance, they tell him that bros are before pals are before gals, but the boys still go to the treehouse and are about to kiss the girls until Tobias and Banana Joe cut down the tree, causing Gumball and Darwin to kiss each other. But now, let's move on to the painting, where we're gonna see even more characters. And in this episode, Gumball and his family are called into the principal's office, and they're confronted by Principal Brown in his speaking debut about a painting that Anais made. In the painting, you can see Nicole overstressed about work, Richard not working at all, and all the boys causing chaos. Anais tries telling Principal Brown that she loves the family just the way they are, but he cuts her off and sends the family off to fix themselves. Richard tries to get a job at Chanex Inc., but literally gets cut off by the door, with him not being able to get through the automatic doors. This makes Paperball and his other office friends laugh. We see them multiple times throughout the show, and since it's the first time they speak, it counts as their debut. Nicole tries to stop working, but this causes her to intentionally break stuff so that she can clean it. Finally, Gumball and Darwin need to go to anger management, with Mr. Small in his debut. They first try to do interpretive dance, but Gumball cannot understand how to, well, interpret the dance. They then try to do painting, but Mr. Small adopts a very unorthodox way of painting by dumping all of the paint on Gumball and letting him be the brush.
The world is your canvas. Now be the brush.
My eyes! It burns! Ah!
Finally, Mr. Small teaches them to release their anger by screaming, which also doesn't go very well. In the end, Anais is finally able to tell the family that they should just stay the way they are, and then they dump the paint on Principal Brown. Next, we have the ghost, and in this episode, Gumball talks to Carrie in her speaking debut, since you do see her as a background character in the third. Now, in this episode, Carrie is super sad because she can't eat anything because she's a ghost. Darwin then volunteers Gumball to be a host body, which she accepts, possessing him like she's the Exorcist, and goes on a binge spree eating everything and everyone. Gumball wakes up the next morning having gained a lot of weight and tries to stop Carrie from doing this, but he doesn't want to hurt Carrie's feelings. Eventually, after talking to Nicole, he gains the courage and tells Carrie no, which causes her to flip out, but at the end, he's able to talk sense into her. Next, we have the kiss. In this episode, Gumball is really scared to give his grandma a kiss, but Nicole and Richard insist. Just before she comes, they fly off in their car. Then we see Granny JoJo come out of her bus in her first appearance, putting on lipstick before she comes to kiss the kids, which is very odd. She gives all three kids a kiss, but kisses Gumball on the mouth for some reason.
Gumball, are you okay?
This traumatizes Gumball, which causes him to have nightmares and need to undergo trauma therapy in order to find his happy place. So at the end, Granny JoJo is giving goodbye kisses and kisses Gumball on the mouth again, and unsurprisingly traumatizes Gumball again. But now let's move on to the episode The Phone. In this episode, Gumball throws out all of his old stuff and replaces it with a new cell phone. This absolutely backfires when they realize that the cell phone is absolutely useless. They then try to call someone, but for some reason, they only gave their number to one person, Ocho, in his speaking debut. He's been seen as a background character in the episode The Third and The Club. Gumball tells Darwin not to give the number to Ocho because of his anger issues, which he immediately proves by crashing out on them.
Is this intense? Is this intense? Is this a 10?
No.
Even though he only gives the number to Ocho, Gumball gets really upset that he's not getting calls. He gives Darwin the phone and immediately gets a call from Ocho. This causes Darwin to get extremely addicted to texting Ocho to the point where his fingers fall off and they become stumps. Gumball confronts him about this and sends a really mean message to Ocho. They then have to try to go fight Ocho in a Space Invader style battle, which ends in his mom picking him up, even though he's an 8-bit alien. But now let's move on to the sweaters. In this episode, we have the new kid, Sarah, in her proper debut. She explains how she's a super fan of Gumball and Darwin, and how at their previous school, Gumball and Darwin are basically treated like gods amongst men. This causes Gumball to get a big head that Darwin immediately deflates because they're not cool at all. Despite this, they get confronted by Carter and Troy from Sarah's old school, who Sarah told about Gumball and Darwin. For some reason, they get challenged to a fight in order to save the school. They find out that the fight is actually a tennis match, and they intentionally lose, which makes Carter and Troy respect them. What are they teaching in Sarah's old school? The final debut that we're going to be looking at is Rob. This is the most fascinating character to look at because he technically has two debuts, his original form and broken form. In the episode The Pony, we see human or somewhat human Rob, who Gumball and Darwin have no idea about. We've seen him prior to this in episodes like The Party as a background character. In The Pony, he just wants to talk to the boys because he was completely forgettable. Gumball and Darwin just sort of abandoned him. In fact, he was so predictable that after this episode, he was sucked into the void. When Gumball and Darwin went to get Molly, they unintentionally ignored all of Rob's pleas to take him with them. But Rob wasn't going down that easily, and clung onto the van, going back to the normal world.
But I clung to life.
This left his body broken and nearly unrecognizable. This new Rob's debut was in The Nobody, where it's revealed that after this, he stayed in Gumball and Darwin's basement and lost all of his memories. Once confronted, he regained all of his memories and took a new role as the villain of The Amazing World of Gumball. And while you're still here, check out Polybuzz in the pinned comment, and if you use my promo code Gumball3, it helps out the channel more than you could imagine. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to go down and subscribe. And while you're still here, click the video on screen. I'm sure you'll love it.